Welcome everyone to Arms Up. My name is Alex. I'm the creator of this channel and host of all the gaming videos you've been watching so far. And today I would like to offer something a bit unique. It's what I call my analysis. It's a terrible pun, but I'm sticking with it. Of a game I've been playing recently, and by recently I mean ever since quarantine really hit back in March. And it's a game called HADES. Now, HADES is the most recent game from Supergiant Games, the developers of Bastion, Pyre, and Transistor. All three games with fantastic gameplay elements and very unique presentations. So, with Bastion had beautiful art style and really solid game controls. Transistor had equally solid controls, beautiful art, and a really intriguing story, and so did Bastion. And Pyre, once again, had very intriguing stories, very unique controls in the gameplay system, and beautiful visuals. Now HADES takes all of those factors, beautiful art, solid gameplay, and a wonderful story. Now HADES takes all of those factors and combines it all into one package and then amps it up a little bit. And it does this through the guise of Greek mythology, something that's very deep, very detailed, and has a lot of stories and other things going for it. I mean, if you think of a Greek mythology, you can think of 1001 Tales, not to rip off Sherazade there. But you think of, the Odyssey, the Iliad, the story of Troy. You think of all the stories between, all the different gods where, Zeus and Hera get mad at each other. Zeus goes and does Zeus things, and Hera has to make up for it or, reconcile the person that Zeus fooled around with. There are all these stories of Greek mythology, and that rich story base is the ground laid for HADES. And it's a beautiful place to work from, and I think Supergiant Games did a fantastic job of incorporating that into this game. For this analysis, or analysis, as I'm going to be keep on calling it, I'm going to keep it to the story, the gameplay, and some of the more finer elements without delving too heavily into spoiler territory. If I do, I'll warn you, but otherwise, expect very minor spoilers for the game here. Pretty much things you'd find out within the first hour of playing. The story of HADES does begin with you playing as Zagreus, the son of Lord HADES, the overseer and god of hell, and he's trying to break out of home. So already he's kind of set up as this rebellious teenager. He has the look of one as well, He looks about my age, about 20 some odd. I'm 26, no shame. But he has, disheveled hair and has the attitude of someone who is quite rebellious to their parents. And he doesn't care that he's ransacking or wrecking his father's domain. All the damage that he does, he revels in. And he really enjoys creating the chaos that he sows across Tartarus. That's the first realm of the game that you start at. When you get to the end of the realm, if you haven't died by then, you meet Megara. We're talking about Megara of the Erinyes, the Fury. And Megara is quite mad at you. Megara is mad for either the reasons of you're breaking out of hell, which no one should be doing, or the fact that there's already at that point an alluded to relationship between Megara and Zagreus that didn't end very well. Either way, Megara is not happy with you. And at this point, you're most likely going to fall to Megara. Now at that point, you die for the first time. In most other games, you reset at a checkpoint and you try again. But in this case, you wake up or come to or emerge from a pool of blood in the house of HADES. He shakes the blood out of his hair and he prepares for his next run. Already at that point, you see that, and you should know, that HADES is a roguelike. Now roguelikes are games that are deep-seated and have their roots based in repeated playthroughs. For each run, you will go to the House of HADES, talk to the denizens, and then move into the courtyard, select your weapon, and try and escape. Now, on my main save file, I have already done about 145 different escape attempts. I feel like I only got to the base end of the story, and that's credit to how the story is written. So, back to the House of HADES. What really struck me the first time was that HADES, the god of the underworld, is sitting at a desk doing paperwork. And already this really struck me as a very unique stylistic choice of how to present HADES. He's a very busy guy, and he has no room to even deal with his own son. And this already sets up the relationship between Zagreus and HADES. It's a father-son relationship where the relationship is pretty much non-existent. Now granted, through the entirety of the time you're going to be playing, you will see that relationship kind of mend. It takes a lot of work to rebuild the bond between HADES and Zagreus. And only by the game's epilogue will you really be able to see that bond be made. And that takes beating the main game at least 10 times. And you also meet Nyx. Nyx, the goddess of night and one of the stronger and more powerful Chthonic gods in Greek mythology. Now it turns out that Nyx is the goddess that tipped off to Olympus that you were trying to escape hell. And this sets off the inclusion of the Greek pantheon of gods to helping you escape hell. When you talk to Nyx, you figure out that Zagreus is attempting to find his mother, Persephone. And this sets up the ultimate driving force of the story of Hades. Zagreus' constant battle to fight his way out of a place that he feels that is oppressing him in hope of finding the one thing that he believes will give him meaning. And immediate success in the game is something you'll rarely see. Like I said, after 145 escape attempts, I only just got to the ending of the story. And the game is about incremental progress towards an ultimate goal, showing that if you really care about something, if you really believe in something, it doesn't come easy, and there's quite a daunting road ahead. It's a very Sisyphean effort, which is very ironic because Sisyphus, the man who pushes the boulder up the hill only to have it rolled all the way back, is one of the characters you can actually interact with throughout the world of Hades. And I think it really does shine on the reflected meaning of repeated effort and just how much that effort will improve things over time. That if you keep pushing for something, if you believe in something, if you really want it, it doesn't come easy. And you really have to work and scratch and claw your way to get there. I believe that means something then when they created the game back in 2018, and believe it means even more now. Now, continuing on with this masterclass of a game, I want to get to the gameplay sections. Now, Hades as a roguelike, and many roguelikes in its set in the genre, are beat-em-ups, they're hack and slashes, they're RPGs of a sense where your character incrementally grows in power to become stronger and stronger through each playthrough, hoping that you'll reach further and towards the end of the game. So for Hades, you battle of hell, you have 3 levels, Tartarus, Asphodel, and Elysium, and then the Temple of Styx. So make that 4. Now the first thing I want to mention is pretty much the primary fighting force are your weapons. So there are 6 weapons in total in Hades. There is Stygius, the Stygian blade, Varatha, the eternal spear, Aegis, the shield of chaos, Coronact, the heart-seeking bow, Malphon, the twin fists, and Exogryph, the rail of adamant. So already, that is 6 different ways to play. Now, not only are there 6 different weapons, each weapon has 4 different aspects. So each aspect changes the playstyle of the weapon ever so slightly. Whether it's the special acts differently, whether it's how the weapon affects you, and there are certain hidden aspects that completely change the playstyle of the weapon. So 6 weapons times 4 aspects, that's 24 different aspects already, which means there are 24 different ways to play out the game. Which, let me tell you, after 145 escape attempts, I've tried each and every one, and I know my favorites. But not only are there the weapons, there are the boons that the gods give you. Now the boons are things that can be anything from passive effects to active effects that constantly change your playstyle. Now I have a list here, and there are, I believe, 10 different gods you can get boons from. So Zeus is all about lightning and thunder and, boom, Zeus, Poseidon is all about being able to push your enemies away like waves of water in the ocean. Ares is all about, Ares likes swords, he likes war, and he likes being able to inflict pain on people. Aphrodite is all about weakening your enemies because Aphrodite is, oh my gosh, I'm gonna swoon over her. But she also has the ability to charm her foes because she's the goddess of love. You have Athena, which can pretty much be summed up in I'm rubber, you're glue, bounces off me and sticks to you. One of the most useful boons in the entire game. I recommend that if you're playing it and you find anything by Athena, get to the attack, special, or dash with the reflect. It is the most useful thing you'll ever get. Next up is Dionysus, who is the party god. And his effects is a hangover, but it's just kind of like you're so hungover you just feel it the next day. And Dionysus is always partying. Anytime you see him, he's got a drink in his hand. You have Hermes, who is pretty much can't stop, won't stop. Everything you do is either faster, he allows you to dodge because you're so fast, or is one of my most favorite of his, whenever you enter a room, you gain a little bit of wealth because he is a messenger, so he earns money. Next you have Artemis, who's all about critical damage, and all of her effects will increase her damage output, but also give you a chance to make critical damage. And then you have Demeter, who is she's the old lady of the gods, but she has a very cold shoulder. and all of her effects inflict chill damage, which is a stacking effect that when at 10, which is the max in the game, it can either 1. Blow up and reset and inflict damage, or slow down your enemy to a point where they are moving about maybe half the speed they would, which allows you to get many more attacks in while they're slowly moving like bullet time in the Matrix. And the final one is Chaos. Chaos is a primordial god who is very different from the rest of his Olympian brethren, his or her. Chaos is very ambiguous in this sense. And Chaos is much more in the sense of curses that turn into boons. So for example, one that I usually find is that for the next 3 chambers, your dash range is shortened by 24%, so you can't dash as far away. But after those next X number of chambers, your attack is increased by 53% damage. But these boons from 10 different gods who have a list of different boons that they can give to you just amplify the sheer variety and playability of the game tenfold. The game emphasizes and encourages replaying it so much because you want to be able to experience everything that the game has to offer. I don't have to find a reason to go back to play. I want to play it because it is a fun game. Another part of the gameplay that I think is really interesting is that it has a relationship meter. And that's one thing I want to mention. The first gift that you give to many of these characters, you will receive a keepsake back. Keepsakes are the versions of passive items. And then there's also companions. Companions are found from certain characters after you forge the bonds with them, and they are allies that can be summoned in battle a certain number of times per run. But for each of those gifts, you have to either give nectar or ambrosia, and those are the forms of the gifts in the game. Nectar is more of the minor gift, and ambrosia is the big gift. And the relationships, after you give gifts each time, you receive special dialogue for each of them. And it's fascinating to see how Zagreus grows. And one of the most beautiful parts of this game, besides the art and character design, is how we see Zagreus interact in this way. Because not only do we get to learn about the entities that live down in hell and up above in Olympus, but we see Zagreus learn from them, get confused by them, question their motives, question his motives, recognize his mistakes, rectify and mend friendships, discover secrets, and mature over the course of the game. But by the end of the game, he's grown into a more mature, young godling, one that admits his mistakes, but doesn't let those mistakes define him or loom over him. And he isn't afraid to challenge a system that's unfair to him, and confronts the backlash he receives with either literal force or by hashing out the details. And he puts in the time and effort to right those wrongs in his world, not just for his personal gain, but for the sake of those around him as well. And one of the things that I want to end on is that I believe that Hades is definitely a contender, or should be the winner, of Game of the Year 2020. It is an absolute masterclass of its genre that, in fact, redefines its own genre in the sense, and really engrosses the player in its world, attaches them to its characters, makes you care about the characters, and encourages you to learn more, talk to people, care about them as much as you care about yourself. I think we can all learn something from that there. Yes, Zagreus is in a bad way, and he does seem to have all the odds stacked against him. But he turns that tide over time through sheer effort and determination. So, if I can leave you with anything, is that 1, my review of this game in terms of stars, and it's definitely 10 out of 10. This game has beautifully succinct and tight gameplay, absolutely stunning art and visual style that knows what it is and puts it up with flair, a rich and engrossing story that makes you care about its characters and care about the world that you're playing in, and overall delivers a package that is for the fans of Supergiant games, for the fans of the genre, and hopefully converted a few others over to it. So if I can recommend anything, is that if you've got time on your hands, go purchase Hades, and then get back to me after you've tried your 20th escape attempt. I guarantee you, you will not regret your decision. So, thank you all for watching. Hope you learned something about the game from here. And that was my analysis, I'm still sticking with it, of Hades. Take it easy, everyone.